So I'm Kamlesh Parmar. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Three Legs Resources. What I want to do today is give you an update on where we've got to with our exploration activities in the Baltic Basin. That's probably the best way to show you how we view the commercialization of shale gas in Poland. We're a public company, so I have to put up a disclaimer from us. And as our partner, ConocoPhillips, has reviewed the presentation, I need to put a disclaimer up from them as well. I'm sure you've all read that. All clear. Right, overview. So, where are we? Well, we started off our work in 2007. We're a leading E&P company focused on Polish and conventional gas. We have six concessions in the Baltic Basin area. Focus is on the western three. First mover advantage. We were one of the first companies in to come to Poland to license up for shale gas. So we do believe we had our pick of acreage, and we're working with ConocoPhillips now to appraise our three prime areas on the western side of the Baltic. And we as a company were listed on the AIM market in London in 2011, and cash reserves as at 30 June this year of 36 million sterling. So we're good to go for this program. So why Poland? Why are we here? We believe we have good, promising acreage here. And we had first pick in our view, and we believe we've picked the right areas. Promising results. Now, despite what you'll have heard, the results that we've had so far have been encouraging. We've had gas flow to service from all four of our wells on the western acreage, from both horizons in our concessions, and I'll talk to you about those in a little while. We've got a supportive government. In principle, the Polish government is very keen to make shale gas happen. The quote from Minister Grabowski yesterday is a further affirmation of that. What we need to do is remove some of the red tape that's hampering operations a bit lower down, but really the government is supportive, and we're very pleased to see that. We actually also have a very supportive public. Surveys suggest that Poles living near shale gas sites, 72% are in favour. So the industry has done a good job in making sure that local people are consulted and advised on what's going on. And again, I'll talk to you about how we do that a little later. And for Three Legs, we have a supportive partner. We have a program that we announced yesterday, which I'll go through in a bit of detail. And ConocoPhillips is the operator on our concessions. And we're good to go. Just a snapshot on our activity to last year. We started our operations in 2009 with seismic. 2010, we drilled our first two vertical wells for testing. 2011, we drilled two horizontal wells in the area for testing. And 2012, we drilled a further vertical well and further testing on one of our lateral wells. So we've been active operationally on the ground since 2009. The diagram on the left shows you where our acreage is. The focus point is on the focus area is on the western side, so those three concessions where you can see the Warblino, Straszewo, and Webin wells. We have two target zones in our concessions. What was called the Ordovician 03, but we're now calling the Sasina, which is technically we think the right way to go in terms of naming these in Polish, and also the Cambrian Alum, which we're calling the Piasnica shale. That exists across our acreage. And as I said before, we've had gas flows from all four of our wells on those concessions. Current year activity, we carried out some testing on our Straszewo well, which is the one marked on the highest well you can see marked in yellow. That's a vertical well. We tested the Piasnica zone in that earlier this year, and we'll be moving on to test the higher zone, which is the Sasino shortly. The Webin horizontal well, which is the one that everybody's probably heard most about, we first tested that back in 2011, and this year, we carried out our third stage of testing on that well, and that well is now shut in for some pressure build-up analysis. And we've been preparing for the ongoing program. We've acquired some more 3D seismic. We plan to drill two new vertical wells. For those two vertical wells, we're pretty advanced with both the permitting and construction of the sites. The rig is actually nearly rigged up and ready to go on the first of those locations, and we expect to spud our first vertical well from this year's program later on in December. I'm trying to rattle through this quickly because I think I've only got 10 minutes, so forgive me if I'm going quickly. So highlights for the program that we announced yesterday. We've gathered a lot of data from the operations we've carried out so far, and that's enabled us to get a good understanding of the target horizons in our acreage. What we need to do now is work out and use the most optimal route to getting flow rate out of these horizons. And the best way we think of doing that is to drill and stimulate and test a long lateral well, most likely in the Cecina horizon, which we see as the core. So we've agreed a 3-well program with ConocoPhillips, 2 vertical pilot wells, and then the plan is to drill a lateral section off one of those 2 wells. And the frac that we're going to, or the testing and the frac we're going to carry out in the Strashevo well this year in the vertical will help us further refine and calibrate our frac design ready for the lateral well. So a bit more detail on the program. I've talked about the 2 new wells we're going to drill. One is going to be called Lublevo and the other one Sławoszyno. The single test frac I've talked about in the Strashevo well is going to be carried out, we hope, shortly. Plan is for December. The lateral that we plan to drill next year, having drilled the 2 new verticals, is planned to be a 1,600-meter long well, and that will be tested with a multi-stage frac. The decision on testing a further lateral well will be taken, I think, after it will be taken after we've seen the results of that first planned lateral. And if we get good results from the work that we've planned, then our aim will be to sit down with our partner and work out a pilot development program to try and do some long-term testing from this zone. In order to assist us with the location of the lateral well next year, we're acquiring some further 2D seismic, so we're planning on a success case basis. And the program that we've outlined, we believe, actually satisfies the remainder of our commitment wells on our licenses, so we're in a very clean position there. So what have we learnt to date? And this is the key, and George Waters this morning from Schlumberger was identifying the things that you can change with your work as things move along, and the service companies are always developing new ideas, but you're always learning with these wells all the time. First point is about managing formation sensitivity to water. These shales they do have some sensitivity to water, so the key really is to try and minimize that. And the sensitivity issues we have are that they could result in reduced productivity. So what you want to do is try and reduce those sensitivities. One of the ways to do that is to continually look at improving your mud design, and that is something we'll be doing with our next wells. The completion designs that we're using now are based on a cross-linked gel. The Webbin lateral that we drilled in 2011 was completed with a slick water design. We've moved away from that now. We believe the right way to go is with a gel-based design and to use smaller fracs, but actually use a lot more proppant in them as well to try and give the fractures the best opportunity to produce. So we're refining the frac design all the time, and the work we're doing on Strashevo this year will help us prepare for giving the lateral well next year the best opportunity for success. And the aim of the game, well, what we want to do is try and deliver a flow rate that has commercial potential. It's really that simple. And the vertical wells will enable us to really place that lateral in the best possible place. These maps are relatively new. This is how we view the target horizon in our acreage. This map shows you the Cecina zone, and it's based on our well data. So you can see that our target areas are from about halfway up our acreage and north. That's, from a company perspective, that is what we are focused on. And the 2 vertical wells that we are planning are going to help us delineate this far better. And then, as I said, optimize the placement of the lateral. Same map now for the Piasnica shale. Slightly different in terms of the way it looks subsurface, and you can see that we've mapped it a little differently. But that is our secondary target zone. I should stress that at this point, from both a Conoco perspective and Three Legs perspective, we see either target as potentially justifying a development if we can get the right rates out of these wells. put this slide up a few times now, but just to remind people, the US analogy is still important of the way in which shale gas projects develop. The example I've put up here is from the Fayetteville, and what you're seeing on the left is an improvement in IP rates over a period of 5 years. Average IP rates have doubled, and on the right, what you're seeing is a recovery per well rate, how that's improved over 5 years, and those have gone up by 5 times. So you can see how from a beginning of a project towards once you start developing a project, how rates and ultimate recovery can improve. There's no reason why similar improvements, maybe not at this scale or maybe better or worse, who knows, but you will see improvements as you drill more. And again, I go back to the presentation this morning from Schlumberger. You can see how improvements can be made all the time. Regulatory update. So this is quite topical at the moment. From a Polish government perspective, clearly there's been a lot of toing and froing over the draft hydrocarbon law, and industry has outlined its concerns on that hydrocarbon law or the draft of it. We support the work the ministry has done in reducing the burden on wells that are less than 5,000 meters deep, but there are still some other issues that I've highlighted on there that we need addressing. I think the statement made by the new Minister of Environment yesterday in the press was very supportive. You can see there's a continued government support for shale gas in Poland. And as an industry, and I sit as president of OPPPW as well, we're looking forward to ongoing continued dialogue with the ministry to make sure that industry's concerns are properly addressed. From a European perspective, I think I can talk both from a three-legs perspective and I think from an industry perspective, we believe that the regulations that exist at EU level and at Polish level are adequate to enable us to drill properly and safely through an exploration period. I probably don't need to say too much more than that. We support the Polish government in its view in expressing its concerns on the proposed changes being put forward by the EU, and we continue to support that. Community engagement was talked about this morning as well, and I think the key word here is engagement. There's one thing going to visit people, paying them lip service. There's another thing actually going there, listening, talking to people and trying to explain to them what it is you're trying to do and making sure they understand. That requires time and effort, and the industry is very, very keen to make sure this happens. I've carried out work in this area myself. When Three Legs were operating, I've been into the local communities. I've stood in front of at town hall meetings and taken the difficult questions. You have to do that. It's part of the engagement process. How do you do that? Well, you need to be there fairly regularly to show that you're not just passing through. You need to make sure that senior people are doing it, not just the most junior members of your team, so that it's not lip surface, that it's clear that industry is taking this seriously. Town hall meetings, etc., those are all relevant. And then you get engaged with local projects if you can, help out with local community projects. I know that one of the things that Conoco has been doing recently is handing out safety vests for local children in an area. You're in these communities, you're spending time there, you've got vehicles there. You don't have a zero impact. You do have an impact when you're there. You can't not have an impact. So you have to try and manage that in the best sensible way. And there are various ways of doing that. But they all require time and effort. And industry is fully aware of that. Part of that public engagement, community engagement, involves some of the environmental aspects, and I just don't want to spend too long on this slide, but the report carried out by the PGI on the environmental impact of a lateral well was carried out on our location at Webben, and we got a good clean bill of health there, and I've just put up a few bullet points. But this is all part of the messaging that industry has to be prepared to give out in terms of operating in a safe and environmentally sensitive manner. Outlook. we're still focused on those Western Baltic concessions. We believe the program that we've now put forward will enable us to do this in a quick and efficient manner. And I've put up there a quote from Larry Archibald, who's the head of exploration at ConocoPhillips. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. You can read that. We believe we're in the right bit, and we want to give this a good chance of success.
So we will start a Q&A session. I will take advantage of my position at this stage, and I will ask the first question about. I don't know whether you're aware, but in this room there's over 100 representatives from local communities. And these are also regulators of your business. We just spoke a lot about the national regulations and the way it goes. But what message or what expectation you would have to the local regulators? Could they do anything better, or they just basically bound by the national regulations and they just do whatever they can in the time in the regulatory frame?
It's quite a general question. As a general answer, I would ask that local regulators ask the operators whatever questions they need to ask and engage. Because from an operations perspective, unless we as operators are able to communicate with you in a way that helps you, you're not going to be inclined to help us. So one of the key things for the operators is to make sure we put out the right information and do it in a sensible and easy to understand manner. And I think from a regulator's perspective, if you feel that you need more, you need to ask, because I can tell you from every operator I speak to, they're never going to say no. They're never going to refuse to give you information, so long as you clearly understand what it is you need and why.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. That okay, so not to be afraid of questions. I mean, do you feel this concern from the communities? They are afraid of asking questions and they just basically hide, or how would you address?
No, well, again, I was careful with the way I answered that, because my own experience is only of the areas that we operate in, and we operate in the Baltic area up in Pomerania. My own experience of our work is that we've been open and transparent as much as possible. We've invited the communities to ask us questions. We've invited them to ask for more information if they want it to help them. And we're there and engage with them very regularly. And I made a big point about making time and making sure you treat questions with care and respect, and that's what we do. As a result, I think we've had relatively few issues to deal with from an operating a locality perspective. We've been able to carry out our work in a fairly efficient manner. And we really, I think we've dealt with our community as well as we could. But of course, there may be people who think we haven't, and I'm happy to listen if people are concerned.
Okay, thank you. I open floor for questions from the audience. Please raise your hand and you will be equipped in the microphone. Można zadawać pytania również po polsku, nie ma problemu, zostanie przetłumaczone.
My name is Witek Wiesław. I am representing consulting company West. Thank you for the presentation, Kamlesh. Simple question to you. You just mentioned something about the commercial flow rate. I am very interested in the numbers. Could you put some more words about it? What do you expect from the let's say result horizontal?
Okay, well, the flow rate that we got out of the Weben well was an IP of around just under 500,000 cubic feet a day. I need a significant improvement on that to be able to give this thing a chance to work. What a commercial flow rate will ultimately be will depend on what the cost structure looks like in a development plan. But my personal view is, unless the next well comes in, north of 1.5 million cubic feet a day in terms of the lateral, then I don't. There may be good reasons why it doesn't, but that's where I see it as a number that I need to try and achieve. And ideally, you need a lot more than that.
More questions right here?
Thank you. You said the shales in the Baltic where you drilled, they were sensitive to water? That due to thermal maturity? Is that due to thermal maturity?
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
The sensitivity of the shales you have there. You said they're sensitive to water.
These shales have clay content.
Yeah, but they're not dehydrated. What's the thermal maturity there?
Pardon?
What is the thermal maturity there? Is it low?
In our area, no, well, the zone I'm showing for you is an area that we believe is in the dry gas window and in the transition zone to wet gas at the top. So you're looking at one and a half-ish.
With nitric reflectance. That's very surprising to have that kind of sensitivity. And if you're going to switch to gel, cross-link gel, to stimulate these rocks, that's not going to help you.
Well, okay, you can form your view.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? There are not. I would have one, but I just don't want to take this advantage too much. No questions? Okay, how about collecting money for the projects? Is this a process that is easy or is getting more complicated as far as Poland is concerned?
Yeah, it's from a cash perspective, we raised our money back in 2011. So I don't have to go back to shareholders at this point in terms of raising cash. Ultimately, if we have a success story with this next work, then moving forward towards some form of pilot program will require me to raise more money, and at that point I will need some good data to do that with. Raising money for EMP is never easy, but what investors are looking for is an opportunity to see a commercial return. So the key for me is to demonstrate that. Whether I'll be able to do that or not depends on this work.